I think the way you overcome this is one by using your voice, calling out, accountability, and moving on. And
No, I've done
for
a lot.
liberals,
I've done a lot of that today, haven't I?
when you're saying liberals, to me, it's a very weird thing what happened with liberals. I think liberals lost themselves. They're a little bit confused. Feminists started off with
I'm a feminist.
well,
though.
I believe you. I can hear it when just listening to you. Feminists started off as wanting to be for women's rights. Women rights. Women rights. Great.
But
very
everything
noble.
gets co-opted by
Well,
those
I
that
mean,
want to brainwash
But conservatives
the
are
people.
not. Conservatives are not sitting there saying, "Let's have men compete against women, young girls." I mean, that's like the ultimate.
See, but that is how everybody gets co-opted. That is a thought, an idea gets co-opted, and then it gets pushed. And
What does that even mean?
What
Co-opted?
gets
Help me
taken
understand as
and
a
used.
feminist.
So
Tell me.
not as a feminist, as me, I'll tell you that from
Yeah.
a mind control perspective.
Right.
So I was trained to get into the mind of men. And what do you do to get into somebody? You use their fear. You find what it is that scares them.
Okay.
So you use fear, then you got them, and then you insert an idea into their heads. So when I speak about the division is that every issue, what you hear about it is very specific, and it creates more division because most people are not on that end of the spectrum or on that end of the spectrum as it's being presented to us. Most people are somewhere in the middle. And yes, I think there's a lot of confusion because of that mind control. And when I say co-opted is, for example, abortion was co-opted for in the feminist movement. The issue of abortion was co-opted. Now, Hans Harmsen, that German doctor, he was the head of Pro Familia. So he was the head of the Planned Parenthood of Germany. He was friends with Margaret Sanger. And so there's something about abortion where that has become the thing, the biggest issue. It is not. Every woman would know that being a mother is, is why we are, being a woman is being a mother, and there's biological facets of that make you more empathic in general and more able to open your heart because we're mothers. And that is, that has to do with the biological, with a biological fact. So to take abortion, where, first there's sexualization of everything. That was imposed. I was going to be part of that agenda of sexualizing everything to go towards pedophilia eventually, because I was going to be a girl singing sexy songs, and then I was going to be a woman singing like a little girl. And so that is on purpose. So I was trained that way. And of course, there's a thought behind it that people will think it's okay that a little girl sings like, makes sexual jokes, and that an adult woman sings like a little girl. And everything that is being sexualized, the way that porn has become so incredibly accessible that most children today discover sex through porn. None of that is, I believe, on purpose. That would be very much fit into that agenda that I was going to be a part of when I was a child, by these people who really want to control everything. And so when you take abortion, that is a natural side effect of sexualizing everybody. So when you sexualize everybody, and you make sex like having a drink, basically, that was the idea. Instead of, a marital commitment, it became this like having a drink, and, and this is what it is today. It's considered that.
Who did that, though?
Well, that's what I think is the people that were in this network, that there was an agenda behind where we're going that has to do with this. Like the abortion would be a natural result of if sexualizing everything, and that then the girl has to pay the most, and that abortion then would become a good option, which it never is. So you never hear about how hard it is for the woman. You never hear about how for example, there is no consent form. Like, there's no consent form signed. You don't know what happens to the fetus. You know, when you go in to have an abortion.
Or pro-life?
I am neither. I refuse to take sides in all of this because I have had an abortion. I was a sex slave. I was promiscuous. I got pregnant. It would have ruined my life. And it would not have been an option to live out the pregnancy and to give up the baby for adoption. It was not on the table. So it is such a difficult choice because you know there's life inside of you.
Are you glad you're alive?
But abortion is such a complex...
Are you glad you're alive?
You know, a lot of survivors of what I've been through would not really say yes to that.
I agree.
And today, by the grace of God, I am here. And I am glad to be alive. I feel that right now, I have freedom that I never would have hoped to have. And I feel purpose to my life.
Yeah. You know, it's a very, and I agree that this is a very,
And that's what I mean by co-opted. These issues arise. It's the same people that create the problem and that create the solution.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean with co-opting. And that is what I mean with the division that has to be so extreme. What we see, it's not as if social media is not controlled. So there too, we get constantly brainwashed. And that's what I say we have to be very mindful of and careful that we don't start judging people.
Yeah, but listen, I understand you're saying not judging people. That's what we have justice. That's what we have law and order.
What kind of justice do you mean? Because
that's
they
what
were
we
in the
have
network
laws.
also. The
No,
people
but-
from...
Well,
No,
that's what we have
it.
laws.
The people in the justice system were the head of...
They're for sale, and that's why I said they need to be called out when they're alive, not when they're dead. That's why I ask you, who's the lady's name? You're like, I don't want to do it because she's alive. That's
not why. I told you the reason is because nobody would believe me, and I'm not ready, and it's not fair of you to ask me.
But at this point, I'm not interested. I don't even want you to say it. Even if you say it, I'll cut it out, just so you know. For you to know, I'm not trying to close you in telling me. Don't do it on my show. Do it on somebody else's show. If you give me the name right now, I'll cut it and
It's a
edit
matter
it.
of timing. Everything I do is calculated,
but hang
right?
on a second. Here's what I want to say to you. If you sit there and think about what is going on, there's nothing like unfair, unfair punishment. So you hear these stories of, guys that went to jail for 20 years for selling a dime bag.
I know. I worked in the prisons.
Why did that guy go to jail for a dime bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or people that went to jail that didn't kill anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else blamed them. And, hey, he's going to go in, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are devastating. You ruined someone's life, their youth. You stole their 20s and their 30s.
That's right.
And they're going to get out in their mid-40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you need law and order so the big guy cannot bully the little guy. You need that. Unfortunately, because we have certain lobbyists and because we have certain politicians that are for sale, predominantly on the left that are for sale.
Well, no, don't say that.
No,
My
it's the
perpetrators
truth.
were
It
from
is.
both sides.
Yeah, no, but
Absolutely. No. You cannot say
I
predominantly.
said
You don't know.
politicians. I said politicians. It's cheaper to buy the people on the left than the ones on the right.
You don't know
Presidents who become presidents.
No, you don't know that either.
Presidents who become presidents, who funded their own campaign, are tougher to buy than those who were funded 100% by donors, like the Clintons, like the Obamas, like the Carters, like others.
I'm saying that you don't know that.
No,
You don't know
it's
that.
very simple because it's just called math.
I have a different perspective, and my perspective
There's
comes
a reason
from
why you have a different
having
perspective.
been part of...
Well, you can say that,
having
but that
been
doesn't.
in it as a
I
child.
understand that, but that doesn't make your perspective 100% accurate. On when
I'm
it
saying
comes
you
down
don't
to-
know that.
Also, you don't know that because you're also a little bit too in it. Because as a feminist, you said you're a feminist. It's easy.
And what does that mean to you? the
Well, what
word
does it mean to you?
feminist?
Tell me what it means to you.
Well, I have been through a lot of things that I
Okay.
know that would have never happened to me if I was not a woman, not a girl or a woman. So
So that means a man will never be able to understand what you're saying. And another woman
no, no,
was
no,
a
no, 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 no. Oh,
Let's
no,
hear it.
not at
Go for
all.
it.
That just means that I am absolutely for full equality. That doesn't even mean necessarily legally. It just means that I, as a woman, need to be able to speak freely and with everything that means as a woman.
Mhm.
That's what it means to me. It doesn't necessarily
When the
mean
point
what
I was-
you're making of it.
Right. And I don't know what that meant, what you just said, but like for me,
Well, because as maybe you don't understand then as a man, but as a woman, there are certain things that I've had to go through. Like, for example, harassment. It was extremely common when I was a young adult
sure.
to be harassed. I was harassed everywhere. When I was living in Paris, when I was living in New York, it was just happening all the time.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe
For
you.
example, that's one of those things.
No,
and
but
it's
we're
very,
talking two different things. I believe that. I believe the sexualization of women. I fully believe that.
Okay.
I'm not sitting there saying that, but at the same time, the same people that wanted women rights are the same people that are okay with men choosing to compete in women's sports. That's very weird.
well, of course, and that's not
defended
what
by
I'm talking about at
feminists.
all.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with
But
feminism to
unfortunately,
me.
that's what a lot of liberals defend nowadays, and that's why they lost the election as catastrophically as they did in America, losing 7
Absolutely.
battlegrounds. It's embarrassing.
But
I want to do this.
Do you have then also that? Is that everybody, or is that
No, I don't agree that's everybody.
Right.
No, I don't agree that's everybody. By the way, I think John F. Kennedy, what he wanted to do with America, I think there was a lot of what he wanted to do was noble. And I trusted their family more because they self-funded them running for office. You couldn't necessarily buy them. Anybody on the left or the right that
I told
runs
you,
for office,
all my icons have been, knocked off their pedestal just
Yeah.
from speaking to people that have been through this.
those are two different things. I totally get it. What's the saying, Rob, when they say, when you meet your hero, what's the word? Don't meet your hero because you will be quite often disappointed, or some phrase like that, because you're going to see they don't walk on water as much as you thought they did. But no, look, I think it is a conversation that needs to be had. I do know it's uncomfortable, and I do know I have a reputation of asking questions that comes to my mind and sometimes makes the meeting a little bit more uncomfortable. And forgive me for being me. I've been like this for 46 years. I don't know any other way.
I saw an interview that you did, and I thought it was much more peaceful.
Yeah, which one was that?
MIA.
MIA?
Mia.
Oh,
The
because
singer?
the conversation was it was that was more about her interesting story that she had on what happened with her. But there was
But I
a
have
little
also
bit
an
of
interesting
tension.
story.
There was a little bit of tension with her. I don't know if you watched the whole thing. Did you watch the whole thing or
I
no?
did, yeah. There was a little
bit of
tension in
with her. With
her interpretation of the Bible.
and not just that, her the father of her child, and
Yeah,
some of the
right.
things we talked about that she was uncomfortable
That
to
she
talk
asked
about.
not to talk about, just like me.
No, at beginning she was open to it, and then later on she got uncomfortable with it. So
I see.
and just like you, by the way, to be fair, so the audience doesn't think I'm cornering you. You told Tony that you wanted to name names.
No, I didn't say that at all. He came to ask me if I wanted
when
to.
you
No,
guys
no.
first
Let's
spoke,
be very clear.
Let's bring him in here then, because I'm
Yes.
not releasing this interview.
Yes, he came to ask
Rob,
me
can
if
you
I was
invite
willing
Tony
to
in here,
name some
please?
names.
So then Tony's going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So let's hold Tony accountable. Tony, if you can come here, buddy. Tony. Come on, Tony. So when you told me you proposed for her to be a guest on the podcast, she said she wanted to name names that she's never named before.
I thought we were under the assumption that we were going to discuss when we first spoke early on over a month ago. I had brought this up to you.
I don't remember. But I don't remember saying that I wanted to name names. I would never say that because that's not really what I normally would do. And you brought it up today. I thought you meant today. You went and brought it up.
No, I brought this up early on. I said, "Are you willing to come on?"
But I must not have answered you. I definitely did not tell you I'm going to name names that I've never named before.
Well, here's
you
the
know.
point. The reason for it is like Tony has never misled me. So when Tony says something, I'm like, okay, cool, that sounds good. And I don't have a problem with that. But for me, it was I've known your story.
But
I've
you're
seen the
saying I
story.
want to come on naming names. That's not exactly what I would have. Would you say that I said I wanted to come on naming names? That's not really how I would say it at all. I was asked. I was considering it. Maybe this came up or not, but
This came up
early
when
on,
we spoke.
2 months ago.
I said, yeah, we spoke some time back. I said, are you willing to come on?
Yeah.
Are you willing to speak?
So,
Well,
and the
he
only
asked me
reason
right
I wanna
before we came
qualify-
on.
But no, but only reason I want to qualify this, because that's questioning the integrity of the interviewer, which is me. I'm not going to sit here and feel
I'm
like
not doing that.
But hang on. I'm not going to sit here and be cornered as if I'm cornering you. No,
Oh, okay, that's what it
because
felt
then-
like.
Then you're going to walk away saying, this guy was just I'm not cornering you. I'm being told, hey, there's a lot of things. And she's at a point right now with everything that's going on with Diddy, Epstein, all this stuff. She feels compelled to want to talk and maybe give some names. I said, great. Now let's have the
Tony
conversation.
came to me right before
Right.
coming in here and said, would you be willing to name some names of people that are alive? And I went through the list and I, told him I'm not comfortable naming David Rockefeller. I didn't say
Well,
who,
he's not
the
alive.
billionaire.
He's dead. He died.
Yes,
in
he is dead.
2017.
And
Yeah.
the person who's alive, I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, I totally get it. And that's a different conversation. Let's separate those two.
Okay.
Those two, let's qualify. One is you expressed the interest to want to come here for that reason, to maybe talk about some names
it's not
that...
for that reason at all. I was considering, I did have an intuition that this is correct. This is definitely the biggest podcast I've ever been on, and this is you have a very large reach. I was a little concerned, just because of your political views, frankly. I was a little concerned to come on because I do...
We didn't talk politics
No,
until
we
you brought up
didn't.
feminism. I didn't bring up Trump. I didn't ask you about
Well, I
Trump.
don't think it's a political
No,
thing
but what I'm trying to
necessarily.
say to you is this is not I'm not having a political conversation with you. I'm having a conversation from a father with 4 kids who
Yeah,
hears stories like
right,
this, and
right.
we support a lot of charities behind closed doors that we don't publicly endorse because we don't want people to, there's certain things that we will support and nobody knows about because, I'm involved in this in many directly and many indirectly, but this is a very important issue in my life. And so when these stories come out and I hear names of people that are still out there that are not being held accountable, it upsets me a little bit, especially when there's somebody that can do something about it. I can't. I'm not in it. You are. And I'm all about giving the limelight for somebody to share some of those things with others so people can protect themselves from perpetrators doing it again repeatedly to younger children today, which is not fair. Somebody stole your youth, and I'm not okay with that. And if we can do that to save it from happening to the other 359,000 that FBI has reported in 2022 of children's missing, how are those parents handling things? Imagine the mother and the father not having their kids next to them when they put them to bed, when they put them to sleep, when they hug them, when they kiss them. My 3-year-old daughter this morning was crying for no reason, okay? And her sister got into it. And I went downstairs to check on her. She gave me a hug for 45 seconds. Let me tell you, priceless. Give me all the money in the world. Will not replace that feeling I got skin to skin when I kiss her neck and kiss her cheek. And she's telling me, Daddy, I want to make sure every father and mother who is missing those children, I want more attention to it so someone can do something about it. Whether they're former military, politicians, wealthy people that are willing to give money to it, I want to bring attention to it. This is not an easy topic. This is very uncomfortable. This is why I said at the beginning, it takes courage to talk about it. I give you that respect. So I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy to go through something like this. You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me and he read the book. And afterwards is like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape and he gets recruited to a secret society. Well, when you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time. And they test you. There's unique tests that they have at the society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one,
but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So, I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're gonna enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm gonna put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.